Hello and welcome to the Design Rescue Show, where we take a behind-the-scenes look at the unique journeys of creative professionals, and we learn about the choices they've made that have shaped their career paths. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'm your host, David Block, and today we're joined by filmmaker, art director, motion designer, and owner of Robot Genius Films, Daniel Lazo. Welcome, Daniel.
Hello, David. Thank you so much for having me on. This is a pleasure.
Excellent, excellent. Now, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your history. If you want to talk a little bit about where your initial interests came from, where your career started, and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. So I think the thing that I'm mostly known for is a short film called Sight that we released about maybe, it's been 15 years ago now. And this is a short film that kind of portrays a future that's around the corner where people have these augmented reality contact lenses and all the interfaces that you now see in computers and iPads and whatever, you have these like laid over the real world. Basically, essentially what the Apple Vision Pro is now, but kind of the vision how it was so many years ago.
Agoraphobia. It's been now 42 days since I left my house. People don't understand what it's like living with this anxiety.
And that short film basically opened a lot of doors for me and enabled me to later on produce an independent feature film and later on work in the visual effects industry, working on Marvel films and doing a very specific genre of VFX, which is called FUI. FUI, to people who don't know, that's fictional or fantasy user interfaces. It's kind of what you see around Tony Stark's face or fancy computer screens in sci-fi films. That's the sort of work I do today.
The heads-up displays that they see and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, fantastic. So let's start. The way that I like to run these interviews, I like to start at the very beginning and talk about where you got your interest, then talk about your progression through your career. And so I'm curious, did your interest in filmmaking come before, during, or after your time at Bezalel Academy when you were in college? I'm pretty sure I butchered that name. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. So yeah, I've always been a fan of movies and sci-fi and video games. I never, like as a kid, I never imagined I could possibly ever work in those fields, but somehow I managed to roll into that trajectory. I think college or Bezalel, the academy, had a big part in that, just because I was able to be exposed to so many different types of design, types of art, types of creating. Oh, sorry, I'm drawing a blank for a second. As a kid, I was always someone who would draw. I was interested in drawing and graphics from an early age, but I think only after attending design school I got to basically get a little bit of taste of everything, and that kind of narrowed my focus on where I want to go and things I want to learn.
Excellent. Okay. So while in your time there at Bezalel, was there a particular project or an assignment that you had that significantly shaped your approach to filmmaking?
So I learned in Bezalel, I was in a program called visual communication, which differently from animation or 3D or visual arts, it kind of exposes you to a little bit of everything. So there was some graphic design, there was some photography. And at some point, I think in year number 3, I was exposed to motion graphics, which was 15, 16 years ago. I was just very beginning of the genre. And I was like, oh my God, this is like, I can make these pretty things move. I had no idea that this is possible. And then we started learning After Effects back in the day. And I think out of all the things that I kind of dabbled my hand in, motion graphics was the most exciting to me. And I think that in that period of time, motion graphics were starting to kind of like trickle into cinema, in films such as Minority Report, where you have all these like moving interfaces. But
Okay.
yeah, that was kind of the spark where I was like, oh, motion design is a thing. And that kind of led on to Sight, which was actually my graduation project.
Oh,
So I'll give a little bit of preface on Sight. That's a short film that I mentioned earlier, and that was when you finish year 4 of studies, you're basically expected to do like a graduation project, something that you can kind of present to your peers, to the school, to the teacher. A lot of people pick something like a branding project or something like a design book or some larger exercise. And I was really, I think augmented reality wasn't a thing back in the day. And I was really obsessed with some early prototypes that we saw of like what the future would look like if we can see augmented reality. But we don't need to have like an iPad or a device to see these holograms over the real world. So I wanted to make something that would kind of show that. And luckily, my buddy Eran, he was also having trouble with like what kind of project to pick, and so we teamed up together. Eran was a fantastic film editor and a fantastic cinematographer that I've met during school, and we collaborated together to make Sight, which was like 7-minute long short film. And we didn't really know anything about how to make films or how to do all the graphics that we wanted, but we had to adapt. We had to learn as we went along. So we just consumed endless amounts of tutorials and pulled in a bunch of favors, and basically we just had some friends who were able to give some of their time and to be extras in the film or act in the film and look for some location, and somehow by some miracle we pulled this thing together. And we put it online maybe a month after graduation, and that thing sort of like exploded. It was kind of the earlier days of YouTube, and to have your short film get like 1 million views within a month was just crazy.
that's awesome. Wow, that's fantastic. Well, congratulations on on that result. That's amazing.
Yeah,
So
that your short film opened a lot of doors for us.
excellent. Okay. So my next question has to do with, how you've navigated kind of your transitions through your career. You've been in a variety of different creative roles, from motion design to directing at Robot Genius. And I'm curious how these shifts have influenced your creative style or your leadership style.
Sure. So I'll kind of pick up the story from where I left off. After Sight was, we released it onto the internet. We started getting a lot of attention and a lot of emails. We even got some emails from some Hollywood people saying, "Oh, this is a great concept. You should make like a feature film." And we were like, "Oh my God, yes, we definitely will." But long story short, we were just two young kids out of college, and nobody would give us like millions of dollars to make a movie. And so that project was delayed over and over again. However, we did get a lot of offers from local like tech companies and people who are in the tech industry to make some videos for them, to make some promotional videos for like futuristic products. So for the first couple of years after school, we opened a small studio called Robot Genius, and we were lucky enough to just have enough word of mouth to get some starting projects going on. So we made a couple of tech videos for some startups and some larger companies in Israel at the time. And later down the road, I would say 2 to 3 years, we had an offer come in from a company called Meta, which was not Facebook Meta, but the original Meta, who made these augmented reality goggles for real, or at least they attempted to do that back in 2015. So they had us come over here to the US and do some promotional and concept videos for them, which was an amazing experience just to see the kind of the tech that we were just envisioning as sci-fi in our film being developed for real. And later on, I'll get to that a little bit later in the story. But generally, we always had like a good relationship with clients. So clients used to come and return to us. But the dream of making a feature film was always there. So when Meta, the company that shut down around 2018, that was like the time for us to, we tried to make the big film idea happen through the traditional pipelines, and that didn't really work out. So we were going to try to do it independently. So we did a Kickstarter campaign. We, again, that by itself was like a huge deal. We knew nothing about how to, run a campaign or raise money or to advertise that kind of stuff, but we did the best that we could. We kind of rose up to the occasion, and we were fortunate enough to raise just shy of $100,000,
Nice.
which sounds like a lot, but in terms of making like a sci-fi film, a feature-length sci-fi film, it's nothing. It's basically a budget for a commercial.
Right.
We were really adamant and like, okay, we're gonna make a film somehow. I mean, throughout the time that since we graduated, we had a good grasp of what it takes to make a film like on the cheap, and both of us were pretty proficient, like with motion graphics at the time. This is a film that has like 600 shots full of VFX. So it was quite a challenge. We're just a team of like 4 people tackling on this massive project. But luckily or unluckily, after we wrapped up the filming, COVID hit. And then everything was shut down. There was no other work that was coming in. So there was nothing else to do but to basically sit in the studio and just, go through the shots and make them one by one. It took us maybe like a year to finish the whole thing.
Wow.
So yeah, eventually we had a movie on our hands, which was really, really exciting and amazing. Which is, by the way, I'll do a tiny little plug here. It's called Sight Extended. It's available on Amazon, YouTube, wherever you want to Google it, in most territories in the US and Europe. So yeah, check it out if you want to.
I'll include a link in the description to that. I'll make sure that everybody has a chance to go see that. Yeah. If you're enjoying this video, please take a moment to hit that like button, leave a comment below, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our future videos. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I forgot what the question was. I was rambling on for so long.
Oh, that's okay. That's perfectly fine. I was actually just asking about how you've navigated the transitions between the different roles and how it influenced your creativity.
Right. So I can finally complete the answer to that question. So while working on Sight Extended, I got to basically get a taste of everything in the production pipeline. So I did a bit of writing, directing, filming, and of course did a big chunk of the VFX, both in implementation and also as an art director. And by basically trying out a little bit of everything, I found that the part that I like most is the design and the animation of all the UIs in the film. There's a lot of UIs in the film. It's like kind of like a story vessel almost. So that's when I kind of made a decision that that's what I want to pivot my career into. And this is a very like a niche field of VFX, but there's like a very small core of people who kind of dominated. There's like maybe 3 or 4 studios that do this full time. So after Sight Extended was released, I was like, okay, I'm gonna try and pursue this. I'm not good enough yet. I'm not at the level of the people who make this stuff for like Hollywood movies, but maybe I can be. So I I buckled down and I basically studied every YouTube tutorial that I could find. I took courses and I did whatever I could to get my portfolio looking to the level that the stuff that I see from these studios. Yeah, so it took maybe, I would say, a good chunk of time, maybe 6 months to a year, until I built like a decent looking portfolio, and I was able to approach the studios and show them my stuff. And lucky enough, I got a chance to get in and work on a couple of projects. So that's kind of where I am now.
That's awesome. That's great. In the past couple of interviews that I've done, there's been a sort of a theme going on where there's a lot of self teaching happening, self education, and I do that as well. I mean, that's how I started. I'm not a book learner. Typically, I have to get in there and put my hands in and play around and get to know it. But thank you for that. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I think we're living in we're very blessed now to be living in a time where all of this information is so readily accessible and so easy to find. I mean, back in the day, you had to know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy to learn about stuff, or even get any kind of sliver of a foot in the door in the industry. And these days, you can learn everything you need to know on a computer, and you can approach all the key people directly. You have LinkedIn, you have all these social networks.
Right.
So all it takes really is just the willpower and just to put in the time.
Yeah, the initiative to get out there and do it. Absolutely. Okay, so I want to jump to a question about, let's see. So the challenges that robot genius faces in the industry, and I'm curious, that's really what I want to talk about. As the industry changes, which it does constantly, the industry is always changing with new technology. And so I'm curious how you guys, keep up to date. How do you keep your work innovative, high quality? And obviously it's, going back to YouTube and doing more, educating yourself more. I'm assuming that's part of the answer, but is there a method, or is there something that you do that's different, that keeps you updated?
Geez, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I feel that as time goes on, just time moves faster and things change so much faster. And back in the day, it was just enough to know, I don't know, Illustrator, Photoshop, After Effects to get things done. But now we have like a variety of 3D programs and game engines. So yeah, it's a question that's really, really hard to answer. I don't really know. I mean, 2 years ago, I decided, okay, I'm going to focus down. I'm going to drill down to have a very specific, a very niche skill set. Today, I don't know whether that's the correct answer. Especially now we had like the actor strike, and the work in the film industry has been kind of slowing down as a result of that. So perhaps the better approach is to be more like a generalist and know more different types of software, control more, like be exposed to more different types of design. Yeah, I think probably personally, I would advise to an artist to just keep to the things that they find interesting, that they can sustain doing, not just as a job, but something that they do for themselves, for what they love to do. Right. So every time I have a little bit of break between client work, I always like to use the time to make some stuff, to make things that would appeal to me, because basically that what gives me the motivation to go ahead or pick up a new software or take a new course or something. So I would use that to infuse some new knowledge into just making something new. So maybe about 6 or 7 months ago, I started doing more 3D. I picked up Blender. I started modeling, and I find that very enjoyable. And I always did it in very small chunks of time. Late at night, whenever I have like maybe half an hour to put, and those tiny chunks of time accumulate. And at the end of the day, it's just another tool in your skill set. So that's my 2 cents.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah, fantastic. Well, my next question, I'm curious now that it's about we just talked about building your skills. Obviously we're building our skills, preparing ourselves for what is to come in our industry to make sure that we're on top of things. But on that topic, I'm curious if you can foresee the changes that might happen. Like, what do you expect the technological advancements in the industry to look like in the next few years, or do you have any idea?
Well, we can only speculate. I mean, obviously, the biggest game changer, I think, in the latest year was probably AI and all the image generation and video generation tools, which were very, very interesting and very kind of scary at the beginning.
Right.
I think with every new generation of technological advancement, like we had the computers introduced, and that kind of changed how artists produced. Like for example, like a photograph or something that's like very, very valuable maybe 20, 30 years ago, and now like a picture and images is basically nothing. It's just like a drop in the ocean. So I think AI will kind of enable more people who are less familiar with like the tools that we know today, just to be artistic and create stuff, which is great. I think it will maybe it'll enable people to produce more like content in less time. I don't think it'll like eliminate artists completely, because at the end of the day, I think humans are interested in other humans. We don't want to know what a machine make. We want to know who's like the human behind the machine and what they're interested in. So I think it's going to be a lot about like curation and personal taste that'll still draw people to human artists, whether they use AI, whether they use traditional tools. I think AI, at its current state at least, it's just another tool to speed up workflow, and some things will probably will be sped out much faster, like some I don't know, like web banners or stuff like that you can generate within a minute, and you don't need a person to make that. But yeah, I think I don't think we're all out of a job yet.
Yeah, that's actually that is the topic that's been happening over the past year or two, is whether or not our jobs are going away. And now clearly, as it stands, AI is not going to take our jobs. We'll see how it works out over the next 5 years, and we'll see. I can tell you that if you look in Canva, for instance, right now, they have an AI component that to me, it looks like it's producing the most accurate, lifelike, realistic photos of people.
Yeah, it's crazy. The amount of stuff that you can get from a simple prompt is mind blowing.
We've come to the last question in the interview. Thank you so much for taking the time to be a part of the show.
Yeah,
the time flew right by. But my last question for you is on the topic of advice for creatives. So if you had a piece of advice that you could offer to new designers or filmmakers about, specific skills that you see as crucial for success in the industry, what sort of advice would you give them?
Well, I would say, tools change all the time, and new things get added up all the time. I think this is a great time to seize the opportunity that everything is so readily available to learn. And I would say, if you're an artist in the beginning of your way, all you need is just persistence and put in the time. I don't think there are really like shortcuts in this field, but really all the tools now are super easy to obtain. A lot of the information is out there for free. So as long as you get the time and put in the time to basically just sit and beat on your craft, then you'll get to wherever you want to go.
Excellent. That's great advice. Thank you very much. And once again, I appreciate your time, and it was great to get to know you and hear your story.
Dave, thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.